Ahoy, hoy, folks. It's your old pal, handsome or ugly, or the Quasimodo of cool, or Stefan or Cal, or whatever you'd like to call me, Mud, here with another poem. I hadn't done one in a couple of months because my poetry patronage has run out. But nonetheless, this has been brewing for a while. It is my take on COVID as of 2022. I wrote one early on in 2020, but I feel like, hindsight is now 2020 as well, or at least, 15/20 and not 0 out of 20. I think that throughout this and continuing today, there have been a lot of extreme viewpoints on the virus, extreme and uncompromising. And like in many situations, almost every situation today, it's not that there are like a plethora of extreme viewpoints in several ways, but there are simply two extreme viewpoints, one way or the other. It seems to be how we go on every issue. You are uncompromisingly left or uncompromisingly right, and personally, I don't want to be anything anymore because I don't want to be associated with any camp because there are too many problems with either. So, um, in attempting to take a middle road or a if not at least middle, um, an individually thought road, I probably piss off people from every camp and appease nobody. But nonetheless, I get to tell the truth the way I see it. And so, without further ado, this is a long, long piece. I think I've worked out the bugs. I wrote it 4 days ago. But here it is, COVID 2022, my take on the modern day plague. Hysteria has settled, and the pandemic has become as regular as breathing for most of us, even though it was the last breath for some, and many more of its ravaged survivors may never recover their full effervescence. While giving thanks, I caught the plague over rum and pie, or maybe the day before, as my newly infected stepfather clipped my whiskers so that I would be freshly dapper for the holiday. Sam avoided this round, perhaps still somewhat immune from her bout earlier in the year, but Tonto, Marky, 96-year-old Winifred, that's my Grammy, and me all caught a case. It was odd. I have been much sicker, but had never felt this particular way. The worst thing was fear of escalation for myself and my dear ones. Just how bad might this become? Thankfully, my worry went unrealized, and we all fared reasonably well. But it is something I'd rather avoid, needing bed rest the first couple days, and barely able to eat several more. I lost weight and coughed consistently, and I continue to have unexplained spells of fatigue, but these could be from November's darkness, coaxing me to turn out the lights and go gently. We are all fortunate to have recovered effervescence, as far as we can tell. So, what is to be done? I can't say with certainty, but I can tell you what feels right to me. This is, after all, just a 3-year-old phenomenon. Anybody who says they know for sure is most likely mistaken or lying, unless the living God walks among us and steps with omniscience. So please, take what I say with a grain of salt, as I attempt to tread the best path I can see. We can't stop living, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't be careful. Life is for a limited time only, so when we are well, we should make time for our dear ones and do the things that make us most happy. When you reach your deathbed, you don't want to be plagued with questions like, I wonder what would have happened if I tried to sing or paint or travel to a far off land. Or regrets like, I really should have spent more time with him. He was my best friend. Trust me when I tell you, it is much better for your self esteem to know you've done your best, whether or not any reasonable measure of success has knocked on your door. If you've caught COVID, Then put those things off for the medically recommended week, even if you don't feel too bad. You could unwittingly transmit a deadly disease. If you've caught COVID and feel very bad, if you or someone you love has died or may never again attain full health, I am deeply sorry for your loss and the cold, ruthless reality this disease has meant for so many. And I must express my heartfelt thanks and appreciation for everyone who has put their own health at risk to care for the sick. The regulations have felt counterintuitive from the start. I saw no reason to close the parks. You can't catch the virus from the trees or the water unless an infected person has recently breathed there. If you can't keep your distance at a park, I'm not sure you should be in public unsupervised. And I remember when my cousins had to play Grand Theft Auto, real life Grand Theft Auto, to shake the police because they shared a car, but not an address. Surely there must be a better job for law enforcement. How about keeping respectful watch over the unhoused while cooking them some food? Vaccines became tantamount to mandatory when we had very little idea of short term effects and no idea of long term effects because the long term has not yet elapsed. The shots probably were helpful for the initial strains of the virus, but speak little to its mutations, and if they were half as effective as promised, the pandemic would be over. They seemed like the best course of action at the time. But hindsight tells me the risks may have outweighed the potential benefits. I'm done with that particular roulette. Most people are done with masks, but I still wear mine in my large apartment complex. Just today, a woman shooed me out of the elevator with an emphatic, "I'm positive." I was glad we both had them on, but pretty upset to run into her in the first place. She better have had no other choice than to be out. I can understand if you have breathing problems or if you need to take a break after a long stretch, but I don't see any harm in masking up when in close contact. A mask doesn't permanently change your DNA. And of course, there is no middle ground. Thanks to the incredibly odd tag team of neo Nazis and well meaning hippies, the powers that be removed all restrictions in the middle of a surge. The rules remain counterintuitive to this day. We need more intelligent and compassionate leadership, but I don't think anyone could have had the perfect response to a 3-year-old problem. Even though you may have heard otherwise, the rulers are human and as fallible as the rest of us. Maybe, they did the best they could. I'll do my best to stay vigilant for the next while. I believe COVID will eventually go the way of the Spanish flu. I can't be certain, but that is our only relevant historical example. I have never thought COVID is more dire than climate crisis, war, or poverty, but it continues to kill at least twice as many as our seasonal viruses. It has not gone the way of the Spanish flu just yet. My vigilance does not mean I will become paralyzed with fear. I shall do my best to live life to the fullest, to enjoy every moment I can. And may its hardships make me glad that I am an active player in its ever moving theater. And whenever I take my last breath, I hope it's drawn with relief and the understanding that I did the best I could. Thank you so much. And when I was talking about regulations and such, I was primarily referring to Nova Scotia there. I know that um, some are similar across the country, but I'm not real hip to specific regulations, except for what we have experienced here in Nova Scotia. Uh, with trepidation, I've probably pissed everybody off by giving my spin, but hopefully it's given you something to think about. And if you don't agree with me, you can see that I really deeply thought about this and had hopefully something valid to say. Okay, thanks so much. Bye for now. Until next time. Arrivederci, people.